What revelations or disclosures can be gleaned from a robust examination of that document of official record? Dr. Oliver stated that as of February 7th, he and his office had been closely monitoring an outbreak of respiratory illness caused by a novel or new coronavirus termed 2019 nCoV that was first detected in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China, and that continues to expand. And since Dr. Northam assured everyone on March 17th that the state health commissioner desires to protect the public health of all Virginians, we can at least find some feelings of efficacy and empowerment in the pandemic crisis that historically brings feelings of despair, fear, and confusion. Our elected leaders and appointed leaders may have been diligently at work as early as February 7th, monitoring the developments of this deadly pathogen or not. A parade through the main business district of the city of Alexandria, notwithstanding on the very day that COVID-19 arrived in Virginia. Before we filed our action against the governor, and after our examination of Situation Report number 3 from the World Health Organization, published on January 23rd, diligently monitoring the virus and relying upon a report from MOSLAB that they had used in the report published on January 20th, 2020, that had included a standard proliferation projection of the pathogen if it had managed somehow to escape the lockdowns in China and proceeded to spread domestically to other regions in China or even internationally. It found specifically that there had been a deviant pattern of migration from that which would have been expected in a normalized random distribution, attaching to random human hosts, finding its explosive emergence, oddly, in the Republic of South Korea, an avowed enemy of the Chinese Communist Party. A fact that we had brought to the attention of Senator Mark Warner, as well as the World Health Organization, for their failure to highlight this important fact in their situation report that had included the graphic illustration in the document to which they had made reference to support their conclusions in their situation report. You actually had to search for it, click links, and go find the graphic illustration. In a due diligence search of the official documents of public health authorities, could not a law firm engaged in a challenge against the lockdown have located this fact? Perhaps. Was I, as a retired military intelligence officer who had served as the operations officer for all U.S. Army strategic counterintelligence and who had played an instrumental role in launching the intelligence agency that was alleged to have alerted the president last November, as belligerently asserted by George Stephanopoulos and ABC News around the same time that we were initiating our litigations in April? That is a matter for a trial fact to decide. But given the failure of the governor to accept even a waiver of service, a trial on the merits of this issue remains elusive because he has not consented to personal jurisdiction from the court, apparently as a king in derogation of a basic civil right to due process and for redress against grievances opposed by the government regulations, with facts indicative of a conspiracy to violate civil rights, a felony under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, punishable by up to 10 years in prison and or fine. But before proceeding to prosecute a federal criminal case for felonious conduct, it would be prudent first to examine the import of this decision from a civil perspective and at least negligence to consider the national security considerations of this variant migration, early detected for a novel coronavirus that had emerged in the central mainland of the People's Republic of China. And for those who have at least attended a Tier 1 law school, like the prestigious law school at Washington University in Lexington, Virginia, down in Shenandoah Valley, where an introductory course in administrative law is required, may find some acquaintance and familiarity with the seminal case of Chevron USA Incorporated, the NRDC, National Resources Development Commission, a Supreme Court case decided in 1984 where the High Court held that when a challenge to an agency construction of a statutory provision, fairly conceptualized, really centers on the wisdom of the agency's policy, rather than whether it is a reasonable choice within a gap left open by the Congress, the challenge must fail. And such legislative regulations are given controlling weight unless they are arbitrary, capricious, or manifestly contrary to the statute. It's basically agency deference doctrine. But therein, the condition precedent is the agency's wisdom. The dispositive question, therefore, is given the whole array of options available to the governor and the state health commissioner, was it wise to neglect the national security considerations that were presented by this variant migration pattern? Would not Doctors Northam and Oliver, as practicing and licensed physicians, not aware that, as articulated in our pleading to the court, that he first discovered independently in 1892 with regard to the tobacco virus, and in 1898 with regard to the mosaic virus associated with hoof and mouth disease, viruses are by far the most abundant biological entities on our planet, as noted in Patrick Porter's Defining Life, the viral viewpoint published in the Origins of Life Evolution Biosphere Journal in April 2010, and that as of that date, there were only 219 virus species that are known to be able to infect humans, as noted by Mark Woolhouse in his research article titled Human Viruses, Discovery and Emergence, published in 2012. Rendering the plausibility of a new virus suddenly appearing that is harmful to man infinitesimally remote in nature and probability. Were they not aware, at least by March 9th, when it was noted by Mark Abity in his article titled How the Coronavirus Compares to SARS, Swine Flu, Zika, and Other Epidemics, that appeared in Business Insider magazine, that it may be of at least probative value that COVID-19, often described as a cousin virus, is akin to the serious acute respiratory syndrome SARS virus, which originated in Hong Kong, China, the place where all of the bat coronaviruses are located, as noted in the Emerging Infectious Disease Control Journal, Center for Disease Control Journal. But yet, despite similarity in infection capabilities, has enjoyed a much wider proliferation for no explainable reason. And now, as noted in a report by Scripps Research in June, has become even more highly infectious. Somehow, reading their earlier report on zoonotic evolution and sprouting additional signature crowns, not yet noted by the reported leading infectious disease control expert, Dr. Fauci, who just said that it is just more infectious, not even having determined what the attack rate or infectious dose is for the original one, because it just appears to be more infectious, based upon no scientific study, no research study. It's just more infectious, according to Dr. Fauci says. On February 7th, Dr. Oliver stated authoritatively that he was monitoring the virus proliferation, but somehow missed his variant migration, apparently dismissing the same alleged conspiracy theories about the virology lab, just as Lowell Feld, chief blogger for Blue Virginia, had done in his article about Senator Amanda Chase that was published in August, and considers the governor's authority under VA Code Section 44-146.16 to issue orders to address man-made disasters like biological weapons of terror, an executive decision, not an abuse of discretion. Apparently, even two senior Democrat Party legislators in Northern Virginia who were kept apprised of our litigation. As stated by the Supreme Court in the case against General Aaron Burr for treason in 1807, if the gentleman had believed this decision to be favorable to him, we would have heard of it in the beginning of his argument. Well, the path of inquiry in which he was led him directly to it. Interpreting the American Constitution, he would have preferred no authority to that of the Supreme Court of the country. Yes, sir, he would have immediately seized his decision with avidity. He would have set it before you in every possible light. He would have illustrated it. He would have adorned it. You would have seen it under the actions of his genius appear with all the varying grandeur of our mountains in the morning sun. He would not have relinquished it for the common law, nor have deserted a rock so broad and solid to walk upon the waves of the Atlantic. But he knew that this decision closed against him completely the very point for which he was laboring. Hence it was a decision was kept so sedulously out of view until from the excluded materials of the common law he thought he had reared a Gothic edifice, so huge and so dark as quite to overshadow and eclipse it. Let us bring it from this obscurity into the face of day, we who are seeking truth and not victory. Whether right or wrong, have no reason to turn our eyes from any source of light which presents itself, and least of all from a source so high and so respectable as the decision of the Supreme Court of the United States. My name is Major Mike Webb, and by God, I am running for governor of Virginia. I ask every Christian, every conservative, every Republican, every Democrat, every liberal, every conservative, and every Virginian and American true to like the motto of the imagery. Follow me and we shall overcome. Honest. And y'all come back now. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.
Guide me and keep me in the shelter of your care each day. 'Cause I am a seeker and you are a keeper. You are a leader, won't you show me the way? You are a leader, won't you show